What's going on here? It's Nick Granville, you guy from Wellington, New Zealand. This is Guitar Daily, an episode I thought I'd do as a live stream rather than as a pre-recorded thing. So hopefully you can hear this all right. I'm assuming you can. I've got my microphone set up. I've got it a bit closer today because I'm going to talk a bit. I've got a little bit of a sore throat and a bit of a runny nose, so hopefully you can hear me all right, and you can hear the guitar. If you can, let me know. I can hear it in here. Perfect, so I always assume that you can too. Thought I'd start with a classic tune called Summertime. It actually was a tune, backing track that my friend Simon King made, where he played drums, bass, piano. Hey Josh Rogers, there we go. There's a bad guitar player in himself. Dude can really play. How are you, dude? Yeah, and Simon King played drums, bass, piano, guitar, the whole lot. Made some amazing backing tracks. You should just check them out. Simon Peter King. So anyway, this is his version of Summertime. It's got some funky kind of chords in it and stuff, so I thought I'd start with that. Got me. There you go. Anyway, there was a little bit of Summertime. That was my friend Simon Peter King, as I mentioned. That was his backing track for Summertime, which is pretty damn cool, I think. So I'm just going to pull up the live so I can see if I can find the... where are we? Huh. What have I done? Your videos. Where's my live stream gone? Let's have a look. Maybe it's there. I'm going to pull up the live stream so I can see the chat that's going. Oh, there we go. Put that one down. Thanks, Josh. I hope you're good, man. Everybody should go and check out Josh Rogers' channel too. He's got some really good stuff on there. Kiwi guitar player, lives in the north a little bit, up the kind of Tauranga way. Does a lot of classical guitar stuff that's really great. A lot of really good instruction there. A lot of stuff with fractal with the 4-cable method. Yeah, he's got some good stuff on his channel. So today, I thought I'd play some stuff, and I'm going to answer a bunch of questions that I kind of haven't got to lately. And these have been sitting here waiting to go. So I thought I'd kind of go through a few of those. So let's start chipping away at them. Right, so here we go. First one. Georgie Porgie. George Honorato 575 says, great playing, Nick. I would like a breakdown video. That would be cool. Thanks for sharing. So that was on Georgie Porgie. So the way I approached that tune was, I mean, of course, you've got to know the chords, melody, all that kind of stuff, right? It's kind of based off that, right? C, D7, E minor. And then the other section, C, A minor. So C, A minor, and B7, right? And then Georgie, Porgie, pudding pie, and then da 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 da, and there's a C sharp, 7 sharp 9, da 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 to B7, right? So it's F7 flat 9, B7 sharp 5. So you have the hits, right? And the key one there is the top note. That's the melody line. Melody line in terms of what's created with the chords. Then I played the classic Steve Lukather thing. Right, and so on. And then of course the melody. I really like to play the melody with a little bit of chords, but the backing track was really quite dense, so I didn't. But, you know. So all those parts, whenever I learn a tune, one of my first things I usually do is I go and I learn all the melodic ideas, right? What's the melody doing? What's the chord movement? All that kind of stuff. Like, I want to get that stuff down before I even think about playing a solo on it, right? Because the thing is, what I find is if you spend the time doing that, your solo is going to stand a chance. If you don't really know the melody, then your solo just ends up being some kind of abstraction, and that can be cool if it's intentional. But if it's not intentional and you're just playing a whole lot of rubbish, well, we'll just call that free jazz, eh? No, I didn't go there. Sorry to those that play free jazz, but it's not really my thing so much. But Yeah, but I'd much rather be informed by what the melody is, right? And that all means your playing will just be so much better. So I always like to learn the melody. I like to learn the melody, the chords, and then kind of some version where I put it together. So this is my approach. And then I worked on kind of soloing on it, right? So C major, D7, E minor. What key are we in? Well, it's like an E minory thing to me, or a C Lydian thing if you wanted to think of it that way. I don't think of it as C. Just think of it as being an E minor. Because the F sharp's real strong in that chord, right? So you could think of it like C Lydian. I just think of it as E minor, right? And then this. You really need to play altered scale. If you don't know the altered scale, I've actually done a Guitar Daily episode on it. And I use that quite a bit. There's some sort of whole tone things in there too. I was slipping, I couldn't help it. But that's sort of how I approach that song. Now, there's so many different ways you can do it. But and one of the key things is always melody, right? Because it's a pretty song, right? I really like Toto, if you can't tell. So Jazz Guitar Jace, which I guess is Jason Wilcox, said maybe a breakdown of some rhythm exercises which help develop your articulation, accuracy, and velocity. Good question. So there's a lot of rhythm exercises out there that people have. I find a lot of them aren't particularly helpful. That there's this idea that if you just do something for long enough, you'll get better at it. And well, that kind of works. But to me, the better idea is to kind of think, what can I do that's a smarter way of doing something, right? So, and there's a couple of key points that he talked on there was articulation, right? The way you articulate things is huge, right? I often use the analogy with students about like, if you learn another language, if you learn French, for example, and you went to France and you started speaking your little bit of French, they're going to know you're not French straight away. There's going to be no question in their mind. They'll just be like, that dude's not French. And you might be saying the right words, but you're not articulating it correctly, right? And I think that's one of the big things is, working on being able to articulate properly. So if it was single note lines, so there I'm playing pretty straight, but I'm accenting every upbeat, which gives it a certain sort of feel. It almost feels like it's swinging, and it kind of is, because of that. Whereas if I... So that was every dotted quarter note. But being able to choose where your accents are. So from a rhythm guitar exercise thing, you could do something like... find a groove. It's kind of hard to talk and play for me, especially with a sore throat like I've got at the moment, but find a groove and then accent certain chords. Do this with a metronome. I haven't got one hand in D, but and then all those sorts of things that really help with, hey Ali, that kind of being able to choose where you put your accents. Accuracy, it comes from, firstly, being aware of what you do. Most people have a tendency. My tendency is to drag. I know that, so I sometimes have to be very, very conscious of it to get up on the beat a little more, depending on the situation. If it's a blues thing, you can sit right back on it. But certain things like that funk thing, that's sitting too far back on, that's not going to work, right? It needs to have a bit more kick. So accuracy comes from being aware of your tendencies, and everyone has them, and then being able to correct and have it. Also, accuracy comes from practicing lots of different variations, and then you've got control, because control creates accuracy. I have a whiskey, by the way, too, for my throat. It's Friday night here in New Zealand, so if it's Friday night where you are, then grab a drink and join me for this. If it's not Friday night and it's morning for you, wherever you might be, then grab a coffee. or a tea or whatever you're into, or even just a glass of water and join me. The main thing is that you're here. That's awesome. Velocity is an interesting thing that Jason put there, because it's something that's not often talked about, right? If you hit really hard, you know when people go, what happens is you're just going to run out of steam for a start, and it just sounds like crap, right? So the better thing to do is like think of velocity in terms of like how hard you're hitting is quite a light thing. If you watch that video I did the other day with Corey Christiansen, he plays super light. It's really inspiring to hear that because it gets a sweet tone. So trying to be able to play at all those different volumes. That's kind of hard because I've got a microphone here that's pretty loud, pretty lively because it's set up for my voice. So it's picking up the strings a lot more than you normally would have if you had an amp. You'd have more dynamics with an amp in that. But yeah, anyway, those are the kind of things. So practicing the different levels of velocity and being aware of it. Like, where's the sweet spot? And then if you need more volume to blend with the band, you turn the amp up a little more. I actually play with my amp pretty loud a lot of the time. And when I have people come and sit in on gigs in the past, it doesn't happen so much now, but people used to come and sit in a lot. The first thing they do is they play a chord and they go, and then all of a sudden they'd be like, whoa, it's crazy loud. He's playing way super light, almost inaudible. Don't like it. Who's playing super light and almost inaudible? Corey. I think, I love the way Corey plays. It's really beautiful and it's really powerful. I don't think I'd ever be accused of being inaudible. No, he punches through. It's like his way of doing it is really it takes a lot of control to play that way. I remember playing with this drummer, German drummer when he was here, Jans Leibniz, and he was. I remember the first time we played together. That dude played super light. It was like ding 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 ding, crazy fast tempo, and he'd be able to play like crazy light. I remember the first time we played, it was like unnerving because I'm used to drummers that kind of hit a bit harder, and but then after a while I realized actually this is really nice. It's like an acoustic level thing. I could play an arch top and I could kind of be super expressive in that, and we could get louder if we wanted to. It wasn't like we were playing at the ceiling. Yeah, so Harry Harrison says, what about different creative approaches to making up I'm going to mute that because I'm getting texts from people. Harry Harrison, really great guitar player from Christchurch. If you don't know Harry, he's a bad dude. Plays great. Hey Nick, what about different creative approaches to making up backing parts for a song? You could use a suitable chord progression as a basis. Okay, great question. This is something I do a lot when I do sessions. So I have to come up with parts, right? Maybe they have a chord progression that goes C to A minor, right? And something like that, like Hallelujah. Right, that's one kind of approach, is a picking kind of thing like that. But you could do something like. And all I did there was play C triad, C, E, G, C. And then I went C, E, A minor, G. I really like coming up with parts where there's common tones, especially if I'm playing a second part. If there's another one playing low register, then I'll play the higher one here with common tones like that. Because both C and A minor, both C and A minor have a C note in them. They both have an E note in them, but one has a G and one has an A. So that's a good way to kind of approach chords. And triads work really well in that instance. You could have a triad like this. Any of those notes are good, right? And so I'm always looking at like what's the way I can contrast things too, right? If I have someone who is playing a busy part, like say you have an acoustic player and they're strumming pretty full on, then if I'm coming up with a part, a creative approach for a song, I'll try and do something that contrasts it. So they're rhythmically busy, then I'll be sparse. And maybe I'll do something like... Excuse me. So I'll come up with a part like that that's sort of ambient and textural and almost doesn't sound like a guitar to contrast what they're doing. And I think that's one of the key things. If they play low, I play high. If they play in the middle, then I've got either option to play lower or higher, or somewhere in the same range, but got to be super careful, right? So I'm always looking at those kind of things when I come up with parts. And I think the creativity comes from being experimental with it, not just taking the safe bet, because sometimes, I remember seeing Larry Coons play one time. I don't know if you guys know who Larry Coons is. Really great guitar player from LA. And Larry played a gig, and I don't think I remember hearing him play beat one for about 4 or 5 tunes. I think he just avoided it and played right over beat one all the time, and it was brilliant. Like that was his creative way of kind of being interesting with it, with the music. So I hope that helps. Where are we? Where was I? There we go. Let's find that again. Had a couple more things come through. I don't think he's inaudible. I don't think Corey's inaudible at all, Ali. The problem with playing super light is as a way to cover your mistakes, so no one can notice it. And I saw he did it. I don't think that's the case at all. When you have no confidence in your playing, there is no need to make it inaudible. I don't think he's inaudible at all. I'm struggling to see how you would think that. I think that he plays light, but he uses the amp to kind of push it a little more. I don't think he's inaudible, and I think that the way he plays, I really, really appreciate. Because to me, it's a super dynamic way of playing. He plays light, but now he's got room to kind of grow. And he did that the other night on one of the gigs. I saw him play. He really took one solo and it just went through the roof. It was fantastic. But that was because he had a light approach and had a place to go with it. I think he is super confident in his playing. That guy knows what he's doing. I mean, he's written 70 books for guitar. I think he knows what he's doing. He's a teacher at probably one of the best schools around, which was Indiana in the States. They had a fantastic faculty there. He's in Utah now, which is a really good school. I believe he was offered the job at the University of North Texas, which is one of the great schools. You don't get those kind of offers unless you're super confident and knowledgeable about what you're doing. So, sorry, man, I have to respectfully disagree. But that's the beautiful thing about music, right? We can all have our own opinions about things and do what suits you. But I don't think he's inaudible. I think it's an approach, right? And that approach may not work for some people, and it won't work in every situation too. The other thing too is if you play. No, don't be sorry, man. It's all good. If you played that way in a blues gig, it just wouldn't work, would it? You have to kind of, on a blues gig, kind of dig in a bit more. But in a jazz setting, especially an acoustic, kind of bebop-y jazz type thing, then it works in that setting. If you're playing Latin music, it would work, for sure. Especially bossa nova. So here we have another question from Alvin. He said, "Hey Nick, thanks for sharing these lessons, especially the last one. I was wondering if you could share some advice on getting better at rhythm guitar, since groove and feel are important and can be felt by your listeners." That's the thing. When you're hitting it with the audience, when you see them doing this in the crowd, you look over and you see the audience is all going like this, because the groove's got them. And that's something I'm always aiming for. When I saw John Cleary the other night, the really great New Orleans blues soul piano player, and that was like that. You could see the whole audience just grooving like this. And they didn't know they're moving their heads to it. They're feeling the groove in the pocket. Because the pocket on that gig was deep. Cheers, people. It's Friday night, so I feel like I can have a drink, right? Guilt-free. And so some things you could do, like I'd say practice with a metronome, but I'd also say don't just put the metronome on and hope that you get better by doing that, because that's not the kind of way to do it. Cheers, Ali. I think the thing to do is put a metronome on and try and lock with it and try and be aware of what you're doing with that metronome, right? So I put a metronome on and then I use my phone and I record myself playing. And I look at it and try and see, what am I doing here? Does it feel like I'm right in the pocket with where it should be sitting? If I'm not, then I make adjustments, right? Am I dragging? Am I speeding up? How steady? Does it feel good? Because you can play accurately and not have it feel good, right? And that's one of the things, like if you hear the really great rhythm guitar players, is that they just have, it's not necessarily metronomic. It's feel. You know, there's a certain way they'll do things. I remember playing with this Brazilian guitar player who had this thing that he would rush beat 3 slightly. And I remember when I played with him, I accompanied him in a workshop, and I just thought, man, dude's rushing beat 3. But then after a while, I sort of thought, he's doing it every time, so it's obviously deliberate, right? And this guy was a master. So you don't get that good without it being on purpose. So it was like this sort of groove, you know, with the 3 slightly lopey. And so at first I tried to be really rigid with it, like I usually am with a lot of music. It has to be rigid time, and it felt awful. So I kind of stopped playing, and then I just thought, you know what? Why am I forcing my sense of rhythm on this master guitar player? Weber Lopez was his name too. He's from Brazil. And so I just let go and I just followed his groove, and it was fantastic. It felt really good. So I think the thing with rhythm guitar, if you want to get better at it, is try and work out where the things are that make it feel good, right? And I don't think that comes from just putting the metronome on. You've got to have the metronome on, but you've got to also have, you know, because that'll help you stay honest with it. But then record yourself and be analytical about what you're doing. The other thing too is don't necessarily have your metronome on all 4 beats. You can have your metronome on 2 and 4 if you're playing swing stuff. Or even try putting it on 1 and 3, all right? To make swing feel good when you're playing on 2 and 4 is relatively easy if you know how to swing, right? But put the metronome on 1 and 3 and see if you can still create that same feeling. It's not as easy, right? Because those aren't the felt beats in the same kind of way. Put the click on and see if you can just have it on beat 1. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. See what you're doing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. You know, all those kinds of things. And the more you can do to make it your internal clock and your internal time stronger, the better. Even when you solo, like when I solo, I'm still tapping my foot and I'm being aware of things. If I feel the band kind of rushing up when I'm soloing, I'm going to state it a little more and kind of try and hold it in the pocket again. You know what I mean? So I hope that helps. So Joel had a question. Joel is my French friend. If anyone's been following my channel and you've seen his comments, he always comments with a kiwi fruit. We call him kiwi fruit. I don't know why you call him kiwi fruit, because you don't call it banana fruit, do you? But I guess you call dragon fruit a dragon fruit, but I've heard other people call it a kiwi, but we call him kiwi fruit. But yeah, so anyway, this is to my baguette friend, Joel. He said, hey, yep, Mr. Kiwi, can you prepare a method for transcribing? That could be very useful. Okay, transcribing. The first thing I try and do is try and figure out what the bass note is. A lot of the time. It depends, right? So if I'm trying to find it, the hardest thing I find is actually chords, like picking out chords, because sometimes voicings can be very hard to find, especially if it's something like Steely Dan. You know, those guys use some pretty complex chords that aren't always that easy to play on guitar. So the first thing I do is find like, say I had a chord and I heard this, but I didn't know what it was. First thing I do is try and find the lowest note, and then the highest note. And I know if I've got those 2 notes there, an A and an E, then the chord is going to be something within that. My rest of my voicing's not going to be up here. It's going to be in that position. So next thing I do is I look for the third, right? If there is one. If I can hear that there's not, I won't play it. It'll be either that or that, right? Or sus4 or sus2 or something. But it's probably going to be major or minor, right? And now I've isolated that much. Next thing I do is I kind of play around with the middle notes until I find what it is. And then I've usually got the chord by then, especially if it's something I'm getting stuck on. And then, you know, once you've got one chord, sometimes I'll scribble it down on a piece of paper. Most of the time I just try and remember it. And then I move on to the next chord. And once I've got about 3 or 4 of them together, I start practicing it and going over it and over it and over it to commit it to memory. So I want to remember it. And same thing with licks. I sometimes do one note at a time. I used to transcribe a lot as a teenager. I would use tape cassettes, and I would just, you know, play, pause, and that was super annoying because you'd sometimes break the tape, or you'd try and rewind it to the exact spot, all those kinds of things, you know. And CDs became way easier, and now with computers, it's just a breeze by comparison. But yeah, so trying to find things. I don't transcribe whole solos anymore. I used to do that quite a bit. Now I just grab the bits and pieces I want. I heard Corey do this thing the other night where he went... So it starts, if we're in B flat, it starts from the 9th, or the 2nd, whichever way you want to look at that. You have this like D over C. I don't know if this is exactly what he played, but it sounded something like this, so I kind of stored it in the memory banks, came home and worked on it. So it's that, and then it kind of went to this shape, and then just alternated down. Right, and so I essentially was transcribing in the moment. Now, the only reason I could pick that up from seeing him play was because I kind of knew the language of what he was doing. If you don't know that language, then you see someone play, it's just going to be all washing over your head. It's like if you don't, use the analogy of language again. If you're around someone who speaks French and you don't speak French, doesn't mean anything to you. It's all going over your head. But once you know a half dozen words in French or a dozen words in French, well, now you might catch a few things. The more things you learn, the more you'll be able to absorb it quickly. And that's the benefit of transcribing. So now my transcribing is really just grabbing licks and pieces from here and there. I like to slow them down. So I'll slow them down. There's lots of great ways. YouTube has some really good slowing down features, Slow it down by 75% or half. And that really helps. I don't tend to transcribe anything that's overly hard at the moment. And so I'm not really having to use that feature and be stuck on it. Usually most stuff I can get it pretty quick. My ear is reasonably okay, I think. Yeah, and one thing that will help with your transcribing too is singing. Like if you try singing the part that you're trying to do, then again it's going into your head, and I found that helps quite a bit for me. The more you develop your singing, the more you develop your ear too, because singing is all ear and intervals, right? So anyway, I hope that's useful, Joel. Okay, so Hussein Sahil, I hope I've said that correctly, said, how important is ear training for a session musician? There's two questions here. How important is ear training? It is the most important thing for any musician, period, is your ear. Even like the most staunch classical musician, say a violinist who's a soloist with orchestras, they're still using their ears to a massive degree, even though they might be reading something. Reading every single note, or maybe they've memorized every single note, but their ear is highly tuned, right? Because that's where music comes from, is from our ears. So I would say ear training is really super important. I used to do a lot of it. Used to do a lot of interval training and chord training to be able to hear things. I think transcribing really helps with doing that. Transcribing solos and chords and stuff off albums. That's essentially ear training. It's probably the best ear training you can do as a guitar player. And the reason I think I say that is that if you're learning some material while you're developing your ear. Just doing intervals at a piano isn't as good as transcribing something off a record. So I think it's the most important thing, how good your ear is, because how you hear things is really what people are booking you for. Can you survive as a session player if you have a good ear but not good at sight reading? Yes, totally. I mean, there's been heaps of examples like that. Someone like Tim Pierce in LA, Tim's played on some of the biggest records of all time, and by his own admission isn't really a reader. Now he can read a little bit, and he can, chord chart, no problem, but he can read some dots too, and if you gave it to him, he'd be able to learn it, but he's not a sight reader. A sight reader would be someone like Dean Parks, who really is a sight reader in LA, or Andrew Senewick, also in LA, both amazing guitar players and very good readers. And those guys are working a lot. Andrew's one of the busiest young players on the scene. Dean Parks has played on a lot of stuff. The benefit of reading is that there's more stuff you can do now, right? Someone who can't read would have to turn down any session that involves reading. Someone who can read can also do stuff by ear, and also stuff that they can read. So I think that, there's zero harm that's going to come to your playing from learning to read, right? I've heard people say, I just play by feel. I don't want to learn to read. It's going to ruin my feel. Oh, really? Have you tried it? Usually those kinds of comments are made out of ignorance, right? They haven't actually tried to work on their reading to become good at it, to see if it's going to ruin their feel. They just decided this before they kind of, do you know what I mean? So yeah, I think reading for any musician is a good thing, because it's the way pro musicians communicate. I don't say third fret on the E string to the piano player. They would look at me like I'm strange. I would say to them G, and they would go, oh, in that register, and that's kind of how we work it, right? So I think sight reading is a good thing, or some reading, not necessarily sight reading. You don't necessarily have to be a gun sight reader. I don't think I'm a particularly good sight reader, in terms of if you put music in front of me and I had to play it cold. I would say that I can do it probably better than a lot of guitar players, but that doesn't say much. Especially compared to say a piano player or a saxophone player, which are easy instruments to read on. I don't think my sight reading is particularly good. But then, I read a lot, but I don't necessarily sight read. You know what I mean? Yeah. So anyway, I hope that kind of helps. Those are the questions I've had for today. Any? Oh no, there's a couple more. Someone asked if I could talk about some of my influences. Yeah, so there's some key people who kind of keep coming up with my playing and my playing. I mean, George Benson is one that should be pretty obvious, right? I'll probably get a bloody copyright strike for that now, right? Oh man, I got the live stream I did at the orchestra thing the other day. I got 6 copyright notices for that. Not strikes, but notices. No impact, but it was like, come on. And one song even got 2 copyright notices. How can 2 people own that performance that we did? Neither of them own it, right? I was playing it live with an orchestra, so yeah. Anyway, I'd like to play some George Benson, but that's probably going to be there. So some influences: George Benson, John Scofield's been a big one. Pat Metheny. Yes, I did see Rick Beato's interview with George Benson. It was fantastic. I really enjoyed that one. Michael Landau, someone I think about a lot when I play. I mentioned it before too. Rob Harris, fantastic rhythm guitar player. I think of fantastic guitar player in general. I think of Rob's playing a lot. Yeah, the copyright strikes are getting out of control, Josh. To believe me, 6 on one video, and it was like, come on, and they're clearly not the versions. They're not even the same. Yeah, I mean, give me a request for a song now. If I know it, I'll give it a go. Can you hear the dog out there? He wants to come in. He can hear me talking to someone, and he's like, I want to come in. I don't want to be missing out. Other influences are people like Brian May. I really like Jeff Beck. I think Jeff Beck is fantastic. Steve Lukather, Steve Vai, Satriani are all guitar players I really like. Scott Henderson. So many great players all around the world. And then even, within New Zealand, there's Dixon Nacey, Warren Mendonza, both fantastic guitar players. Lee Jackson, a buddy of mine, really good, fantastic guitar player. Harry Harrison, I mentioned earlier, really good guitar player. Heather Webb in Christchurch is great. There was Graham Bell, who's recently moved back to Scotland. Graham's a fantastic guitar player. In Australia, there's people like James Muller, who's incredible. Don't know if you've heard great James Muller, but plays his ass off. Leon Todd, I really like Leon's playing a lot. Leon's got a really great sense of time. His rhythmic accuracy is fantastic. And I like a lot of the music that he's into. We're both fans of Racer X. Any Racer X fans out there? I think Racer X are such an underrated band. Ty had his own kind of unique way of playing, and that you listen to stuff and it appears kind of simple on the surface, and then you kind of check it out and you're like, well, I haven't played any of that stuff for a while. But there's so many great guitar players. Bruce Foreman, my buddy from LA, is one of my favorite guitar players. Period. Larry Coons, Corey Christiansen. I think Corey's great. In the UK, Nigel Price is a great guitar player and someone I really respect and like as a player and as a person. He's a great dude with a big heart. And then Jim Mullen. I heard Jim Mullen a couple times in the UK. And he plays so great. I heard him at Ronnie Scott's, thumb style West Montgomery thing, and it was just awesome. Peter Bernstein. Pete's a great dude too. And then I like a lot of modern guys too, like Mike Marino and Julian Lage is one of my favorite guitar players. Period. Here's Dust in the Wind. Oh, gee, if I knew it, I would play it. I have actually recorded that before for someone's album, but they did it in a different key, and they gave me a chart, and so I've never really learned it, but I kind of know the tune a little bit. I wouldn't know it enough I'd just butcher it, but otherwise I would play it. I'll just come back to that. Dust in the Wind, yeah, that's a great song, actually. It's a really nice song, and actually I should learn it, because that'd be a good one to be able to do something with. Any tunes you want to hear? I just went completely blank. Sunny South Wales. Oh, I love South Wales. We went to Newgale and St David's when we were in the UK. The Brecon Beacons in Wales was really nice. Cheers, Paul. I'm guessing if it's morning, you wouldn't be having whiskey, but it's Friday night here in Wellington, so I'm going to have a whiskey. And for those of just tuning in, I've got a bit of a sore throat and stuff and a bit of a runny nose, so that's why the whiskey to try and clear it out. It's helping a lot. Where else did we go to in Wales? We went to Snowdonia National Park. That's one of the most stunning places I've ever been. A lot of it reminded me of New Zealand. Ah, Tenby. Yeah, we went to Tenby as well, actually. Beautiful painted houses all along the waterfront there, which was really stunning. And I think we spent a night there in our camper van or somewhere around that area. Definitely went to Tenby. Yeah, St David's was amazing, amazing area. I don't know why we went to St David's. I think it was probably because it's one of the more southern points. I really liked Wales, actually. Wales is great. We had some fantastic meals. We went to a couple of pubs in Wales and just had a pub meal type stuff, and it was really great. Any tunes you want to hear, people? Any questions? Anything? Any tunes you want to hear or anything you want to know? Is there anything I can help you with? Oh, yeah, it sat next to me at Corey's workshop. Oh, choice. Man, that was a good one, wasn't it? That whole thing of the up-picking that he talked about made me go, ah. Um, yeah. After you've gone, do you mean after the lover's gone? Or do you mean like after you've gone the standard? I love Earth, Wind and Fire. I'm a huge Earth, Wind and Fire. So, oh, you mean the jazz standard? I should learn it. It's one I don't know. I'm afraid, sorry. And I do know Spain as well. Actually recorded that for this singer Barbara Crow on her album, but she played it in another key, and I remember learning it. Can't remember it now. It's been a long time. I'd have to learn it up again. But it's a great song. I subscribe to Frank Vignola's private class. What do you think of Learn Jazz Standards, Brent? I think the Learn Jazz Standards channel was really good, if that's what you mean. And I didn't know Frank was doing some private classes, but Frank Vignola is a fantastic guitar player. If you guys don't know him, you should go and check him out. Wow, that's like 3 tunes in a row that I haven't been able to play. Sorry, folks, that doesn't happen very often, but those are some mean requests. Maybe another jazz standard. Is there another tune you want to hear? Maybe one that I know? I know a lot of tunes, but I don't know After You've Gone, and I should know it. I really enjoyed Frank's playing when he played with Joey Defrancesco and the oh, here he is. I answered your question earlier about the session musician thing, about people playing ear questions and stuff like that. So yeah, greetings from Wellington, New Zealand. Yeah, so Frank Vignola with Joey DeFrancisco with the Goodfellas Trio. That stuff is fantastic. I was very lucky to get to tour with Joey DeFrancisco through New Zealand some years ago with my good friend Roger Fox, who just passed away sadly. So it's been a tough week with that happening this week. But we toured with Joey D, and it's amazing. That dude can really play. Misty, there's a tune I know. I love Misty. It's a beautiful tune. And it's quite complex actually. There's some things in that tune that are not as straightforward as you think, right? Right, E flat major, and then it goes B flat minor into the A flat. Right, it's kind of unusual, isn't it? Da, 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 into the 1 chord, and then straight away to the 5 minor, which sets up the 4 chord. Hey, Tom. It's being naughty. It's such a great tune, isn't it? I really like Misty. Um, Christchurch, New Zealand. Yeah, awesome. I haven't been to Christchurch in a while, actually. My brother's in Christchurch, and we keep meaning to go down and hang out. And Tom Rainey's been talking about doing some gigs for years, and we haven't kind of managed to do some organ trio stuff with him. And I love Tom's playing; he's great. There's also some other great. Oh, cheers, man. No, I haven't heard Joe Robinson's arrangement. It's outrageous. Yeah, I can just imagine that guy is ridiculous. It's like Tommy Emmanuel Part Two, but with his own kind of thing going on. Great Australian guitar player now living in Nashville. Nashville seems to be the place. There's some great stuff going on there, you know. I mean, you got Tom Bukovac there. Any tunes you want to hear? Thank you. Can you hear the dog whinging out there? He wants to come in, but I'm not going to let him because he has a tendency to come and sit on top of the fractal and like change presets or knock microphone stands over and stuff. So, but he can hear me talking to someone. He's like, I want to go in there. Excuse me, I'm nursing a sore throat. Blue Set. I don't know that tune. I've never learnt it. You guys are picking them tonight. Usually there's one maybe I don't know, but I do. I have played that song a long time ago, and I probably could butcher it and play something really bad. And I love Toots' playing. I think it's great. I'll Never Smile Again. I don't know that song. Who's that by? Is it a standard? I don't think it's a jazz tune, is it? Man, you guys are picking them tonight. I don't know. Here comes that rainy day either. it's funny. Doing these daily videos that I've done, I've really noticed some things about my playing that have happened. The other day I was watching one of the videos back that I just finished filming it, and I put the video back on, and I kind of went, "Oh man, look at my sloppy technique. My thumb was coming in all kinds of unusual places, and you know, there's times, of course, when your thumb might need to come up, like bending. You can't bend without the force on the other side, right? But my thumb was kind of going on weird ways like this, and so I've been very conscious of that for about the last week to try and... I probably do know Here Comes That Rainy Day, but again, I don't want to butcher it and do a bad job of it. Yeah, but I've been very conscious. Oh, thank you. That's really what I'm going for all of the time, is trying to play with a good feel. The other thing I was working on was this... oh, man. The only one I know of his is... Oh, I'm glad you made it. Yeah, 4:30 a.m. That's a bit rough, Khalil. But I'm glad you're here. Anything you want to... Any questions? Yeah, so... but that's the only brother... what's his name? Knopfler tune that I know. I like his stuff, though. I think Brother in Arms is like one of the fattest Les Paul tones ever. It's just awesome. Here's a tune I like to play. I love Graham Greene. Wow, I got to play with Terry Williams, drummer of Dire Straits. That's awesome. Josh. was that Corey Christiansen thing at the end there. Something like that, what he played. Yeah, it's a great tune, The Days of Wine and Roses. And I decided in the middle of the solo that I'd kind of jump up and do it in the second key into A flat. So going between F and A flat, like Bill Evans did on that particular recording. Thank you, Paul. Al Di Meola, or maybe on some other sessions. Yeah, definitely. He's a really great player, and I really like his playing a lot. Any tunes you want to hear? I'm going to have to wrap this up soon. My throat's getting sore again. Too much talking. Maybe one thing I could talk about quickly is minor 251s, because I had someone ask about that, and I've been meaning to address it, and I just haven't got to it. So let's take the tune Autumn Leaves as an example. So Autumn Leaves. Excuse my sniffly nose. I think I got this from Corey the other night at his gig. I saw it. I turned up to his gig and he was like, "Oh, don't get too close. I'm a bit sniffly." I'm like, "Okay, sweet as." We ended up chatting, and then the next day I'm waking up with a bit sniffly, but that's all right. The price you pay for hearing great guitar, because he killed it that night. Amazing. So that minor 251, right? We have 251 in B flat major, and then it goes to the 4 chord, and then it goes a minor 251. And minor 251s are tough. Now I know people think you can just play B flat major over the top of all of Autumn Leaves, but that's crappy improvising in terms of jazz context, right? And I think that the thing to work on with that minor 251 is being able to actually spell it out. So a good way to get started is just try and play the simplest arpeggios. A lot of times people will try and go and play all of that, That gets the point across. Start there. And then go D7. And just explore that for a little while. And I'll do that for a minute and just show you some ideas. Yeah, I know. I was getting distracted and going off into playing B flat major over the G minor. Couldn't help it. I heard something, so I followed my ear on it. But there, all I was doing is really trying to go and just get that down until I can really kind of spell it out and make good melodic ideas, right? And then can you make a good melodic idea out of that? Yeah, I'm sorry, the times don't work for everyone around the world. I realize in the US, Collier was saying that he's up at 4:30 a.m. I mean, that's dedication, and thank you very much for being here, brother. I've been trying to work out, like, what's the ideal time to do this, right? Because, you probably noticed I put my videos out now in the evening instead, because I do these premieres, and I'd set them for in the morning, and then I'd set my alarm clock. I'd get home late from the gig, still wired from all the things that were going on, and maybe the mistakes I made, and thinking about and analyzing and going, what could I do better next time, what went well, what didn't, all that kind of stuff. And then a couple of hours later I'll fall asleep, and then I just sleep through my alarm clock and I miss the premiere completely. So now what I've been doing is like putting videos out at 11:30 p.m. New Zealand, which is not great for Kiwis, but it's kind of better for a lot of other places in the world because I've set up a thing in my iPhone where I've kind of looked at the different times around the world. That seems to be about the best one. I mean, ideally, I'd probably do it like 1 in the morning or 2 in the morning, but I think that the problem with that is that there's times I'm just going to fall asleep or whatever, or and I thought about doing it earlier, but then that kind of could conflict with gigs sometimes. So I'm gonna try 11:30 and let's do that. Autumn Leaves is a great tune for the less is more approach. Yeah, totally agree. Great playing there, bro. Thank you, dude. Yeni Lee does a beautiful classical guitar arrangement. That well, listen, I haven't heard that, man. I'd love to hear it. Send me a link. Because otherwise I'll forget my brains in other places at the moment. Yeah, so ideal time is your time of convenience. Nick. Yeah, it has to be that way, I'm afraid. Yeah, yes, I'm sorry if these things don't necessarily work for everyone. Um, I haven't really settled on a time to do a live stream regularly yet. Just kind of been sort of doing it when I get a moment or whatever. But I'm thinking, a Monday night could be cool, or Tuesday night or something like that. Tuesday night I have the podcast with Warren, or even a Sunday night. Maybe Sunday night's a good one because that's you know, Saturday morning, sorry, Sunday morning or Saturday night for people in the US or whatever. And if people haven't got gigs and they're at home, that could work. Anyway, maybe that's the one, Sunday night. Let me know what you think. But yeah, anyway, so exploring the arpeggios for those minor 2-5-1s is a good place to start. Yeah, and I did think about you all in the UK for sure. I love the UK. I really enjoyed being there. Scottish Highlands was stunning, and we went all around up there, Edinburgh, every corner of England, France, Spain. Spent a couple of months in France, a couple of months in Spain, Portugal, all around that area. It's just stunning. But yeah, minor 2-5s. So, and then the next thing I try and do is trying to work on like connecting things. So if we have this. Well, that instead of jumping back down to a D, try and connect that to the nearest note, which would be an F sharp. Right. And you get your line going through chord changes, and I think that makes a big difference with playing minor 2-5-1s for a lot of people. And the thing is, like, the better you get at playing minor 2-5-1s, they pop up a lot, even in seemingly simple tunes like Blue Bossa. There you have a right, and then hey, Mark Lockett's in the house. How are you, Marky? Man, we had a stonking gig at the Jazz Club the other day with Mark playing drums and my old buddy Nick Tipping playing bass, and Louisa Williamson was playing sax, and we had Anita Schwade playing piano. It played really well. I thought that band sounded really good. I'm hoping we can do some more gigs with that unit. Sometimes it's just hard to book a 5-piece band, but I'm going to make it happen. I'm really enjoying playing this guitar at the moment. The neck pickup. It kind of almost sounds piano-like, especially in the low register. Miles Davis. And then I love how he played that. You too, Marky. I hope you're well, baby. Great drummer. I really love playing with Mark. The thing I enjoy about playing with Mark is that I think sometimes when you have a bass player who kind of just lays it down, it's really fun having a drummer that just kind of creates and some interest and spark. And I like some of the rhythmic places we go to. I'm big on rhythm. Beautiful sounding guitar to play. Oh, thank you. You're very kind. Yeah, the other thing I find with this guitar too is like if I can go to this setting, or even like those two. And then I'm straight back into a jazz guitar. It's not the easiest guitar to play. It's quite a bit of tension even with 11s on it, which is what I normally use. The bridge pickup, you can do that kind of thing if you want, but I really like the middle setting too. I love Jacob Collier. Yeah, I really dig Jacob Collier. What do you Josh Rogers said, what do you think of Jacob Collier and his theoretical approaches to arranging and harmonization? I think the guy's a genius. You know what I mean? And cheers everybody. I think he's a genius. I think that he and I don't use that word lightly. I think sometimes, if someone can play really fast, someone will say that guy's a genius. And I think, well, to be a genius, you have to actually do something. You can't just like have chops or just have whatever. And the thing that Jacob's done is he's kind of created this whole empire around his music from his bedroom in England. You know what I mean? He set about doing those really interesting arrangements of. I mean, his version of "Don't worry about a thing" is incredible. His concept of harmony. Now I know he auto tunes. So I wonder how much of that he actually sings, or rather he pitches it to make it hit the note that he's thinking or hearing or whatever. A friend of mine, Rob Luft, really great guitar player in London, was telling me that he knows Jacob Collier. I think they went to school together or something, or a music school. And he was saying when you see Jacob playing bass and doing all that stuff, he doesn't really do that in the first take. He might do like 2 hours worth to get the one take, because he's not really a bass player. So you see him playing all those instruments, you think, wow, he plays all those instruments, but not to the same level that he does, say, of his voice or piano or whatever. But the fact that he's using the technology and all these things, and he obviously hears music in a certain kind of way, and I just think he's brilliant. I think he's really clever. And now he's been touring the world. He's even played in little old Wellington, New Zealand, I remember when he was here. I couldn't go to that gig, unfortunately. I think I was out of town. I can't remember exactly. I don't think I had a gig. I think I was out of town, and he came because I remember one of my old students, Jacob Pritchard, went and said it was incredible. But he's out and he's doing it. And he's created this whole empire around his music and his things, and I think it's amazing. And it's it's harmonically adventurous stuff. It's not mainstream, right? But he's found a way to kind of almost become mainstream via using YouTube and his social media platforms and all his things to kind of reach an audience. And I've definitely listened to a bunch of it, and I think he's really fantastic. So I don't particularly like his voice, if I'm 100% honest. I think his tone to me sounds almost like a barbershop tone. I much prefer a more soulful kind of tone. To me, it's like Aretha Franklin. I hear that voice and I just go, wow, it just knocks me out. Or George Benson, or all kinds of people, Michael McDonald, or singers with more of a soul kind of flavor or blues kind of flavor are the ones that kill me. B.B. King, Chris Kane, people with a sort of rich texture, whereas his texture to me is more like his sound. And of course you can't change his sound. Your voice is what you got. But I think his voice, for the music he does, I'd prefer it to have a little bit more of a soul flavor. But he's, as I said, he's a genius, really. Yeah, I'd love to know half the stuff he does. I've seen some videos of him talking about harmony and stuff, and it's just mind blowing how deep he goes with all that stuff. And a lot of it's not that particularly complex. Some of it is, but not all of it. But it's kind of how he uses it that's really clever. He's got a very explorative type mind, and If you've just joined me, that's the dog out there whinging because I'm not going to let him in the studio. He wants to come in here because he can hear me talking, and he's like, "No, there's something going on there. I'm missing out." Anyway, it's Friday night in Wellington. I'm going to play one more tune. Is there something in particular you want to hear? I haven't been particularly good at being able to play the tunes you guys have requested, so I'm sorry about that. I know a lot of tunes, but for some reason you've picked ones that I just haven't been able to do. Or, know a little bit and would butcher if I was going to try and have a go at them. Yeah. Maybe I could do something with a track. Let's see what there is. I'll probably get a copyright strike on this, knowing my luck. That tends to happen. Let's see what comes up if I put in backing track in YouTube. Slow as Hell B minor blues jam. Do I really want to do that? I don't know that I want to put you through this. Rock pop backing track A minor. Nah, I don't want to do that. Fusion groove backing track in D minor. Well, that sounds like to me. Who are the mellow artists of the current day? Sorry, I missed that question. Let me see if I can find it. Let's go back here. Sorry, I'm in the wrong window. I'll have to come back to that. Let's find a chip sound. It's probably pretty good. That sound there, by the way, is just a vibrato lux and the fractal. I just turned the gain up on 10. I don't know what this track is, so I'm just going to try and hear my way through it and see what happens. I know it's in D minor, so we got to start. All right. Didn't expect that groove. That's enough of that. But that was just a kind of fun thing. This is this jamming backing tracks on YouTube. Fusion guitar, fusion groove guitar backing track in D minor. It's kind of fun to put those stuff on. Hey James, um, Joel, I answered your question before. You've only just joined me. Um, there we go. Let's turn that one down. Um, yeah, it's kind of fun to just put a track on like that and just see if you can hear your way through it. Do you know what I mean? Um, Another you. There will never be another you. I'm guessing that's what you mean. Who are the mellow artists? Mellow artists of the current day. Lo, I can't even phrase my question right. Oh, tell me about it. I got my brain's all over the place at the moment for a variety of reasons. Mellow artists of the current day. I really like people like Bill Frisell for the kind of mellowest side of music. I actually saw Bill Frisell play in Wellington, and it was unfortunate because we just finished the tour with Dave Weckl that was like a full-on tour around New Zealand. I think we'd done like 10 dates or something. And we got back and I was so shattered. I was like absolutely wiped out. And then I got off the plane, dumped my guitar at home, straight in the car, straight down to see Bill Frisell. And he played so mellow right from the beginning. And I was literally watching it like this, trying to hold my eyes open because I was falling asleep and it was stunningly beautiful, but I just couldn't. It was the wrong time for me. What time is it for me? It's 10:17 in Wellington. Um, yeah, so I thank you for the kind words, Tom, and everyone else who's tuned in. Yeah, so who are the mellow artists of the day? Bill Frisell's someone I think of when I think of the more mellower sounds. I quite like Tom Mish. I don't know if you know Tom Mish. A friend of mine plays guitar in Tom's band, a guy called Charlie Allen. Charlie's a great guitar player. Um, Charlie took some lessons with me for a little while, and he's a bad dude, and I really enjoy his playing when he plays with Tom Mish and when he plays with Incognito. I wouldn't really call Incognito a mellow band, but they kind of are a mellower band. And Charlie's got their gig now, which is great. He totally deserves it because he's a badass. And then yeah, but with Tom Mish, I think Tom Mish's stuff is pretty mellow too. I really like that. Um, yeah, bunch of people. Anyway, I'm gonna have to sign out in a minute, people. It's my voice is getting even croakier and croakier, and I can see I'm gonna lose my voice soon. So cheers to you all, and thank you so much for tuning in. Can I place the links in the description? Yeah, I'll put some Tom Mish in there. Misch is his surname, but I'll play out a little bit with a little bit of There Will Never Be Another You because someone asked for that. Thanks for tuning in, Josh. I really appreciate it, dude. Hey, thanks so much for watching again. Cheers, Tom. Have a great night, people, and I will see you tomorrow with my normal daily stuff. I've got some good videos around the corner for you. So yeah, thanks so much for everybody who subscribed. I really appreciate you all being here. And yeah, this Mr. Glenn, his mini humbuckers are fantastic, handmade here in New Zealand, and they cost. I looked up the other day, and his pricing is really good. They're about the same price as a Seymour Duncan, and a standard Seymour Duncan, not even a high-end Seymour Duncan. You get a handmade pickup made by one guy who knows so much about pickups. He's repaired every kind of pickup you can imagine. Anyway, I'm going to move on, and I will see you all tomorrow with my general daily content. And I'm thinking I'm going to do these live streams kind of regularly on a Sunday night. The more I'm thinking about that, more that makes sense. Hopefully. Anyway, take care. Thank you very much. See ya.